Yeah, man. How are you?
Good, man. How you been?
Good. It's been so
Been a
long.
long time.
I know. I know.
Yeah, man. I'm happy for you that this thing's been going on a while. I forget where I first saw it. I don't know if it was LinkedIn or somewhere on the internet. So yeah, man, appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I told you when I messaged you, like I've got so many great memories growing up, like in high school, middle school with you.
Hmm.
On the podcast, I often talk about, we talk about like the hierarchy of the social structure, cool kids and popular kids, nerds, whatever. And I felt like I didn't really fall necessarily in a name, but I knew I wasn't in the cool kid crowd. But I definitely looked at you as one of the cool kids, but you were one of the very few cool kids that I actually like felt like I could talk to in school, middle school and high school. I always just kind of remember having great conversations with you, generally music based, but always since middle school, I constantly remember always talking to you.
Yeah, man. Man, cool kid. I don't know about all that. But, no, man, it's so funny when you look back now and like think about all that. And we all watch everyone's in the TV series now, and just the way kids in high school are portrayed. And everyone thinks back like, man, was I like that or whatever? But yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, I remember obviously we were in TV lab senior year, and I think that year, like preparing to go to college, I just kind of tried to throw all that out the window and not, think about who was considered what or status, and just tried to talk to everyone. And I'm glad I did that. I wish I would have been more like that throughout, my entire education. But I think obviously a lot of people look back and, there's certain things they would have done differently. So yeah, man, I appreciate the compliment, I guess.
Yeah, I felt like you were putting in that work at least, with around me, besides senior year.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, man, you were always very outgoing. Like for my you, the thing about you, like no matter what you considered yourself, like you talk to everyone. Like you didn't care. Like you were you didn't hold back. So no, I appreciated that about you, and I'm not surprised you have a podcast today.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's figure I would talk to everyone even if they didn't want to be talked to. And that was the
Yeah,
difference I felt like with you is like some people would let me know it. That I was
yeah,
getting on the nerves or like, hey dude, what the hell are we talking about right now? But like you never really showed it. So that was what always like very fun. Always music based, but I remember like
yeah,
just like Eminem, Tupac. I remember when Outkast came out, when Stank
yeah,
On You first came out, and I
yeah,
heard Miss Jackson on Power
yeah.
99. I remember the next day, dude. I was like, first minute I saw, he's like, Adam, there's this new Outcast song. It's like, I'm sorry, Miss Parker. Ooh, I mean it right now. I couldn't even remember the fucking song was going, and I'm like trying to tell you the song. You're like, word, really?
Yeah, man. Definitely still into the music. It's funny, like back then, going back to what I was saying about just kind of thinking back, to that note. It's funny when you think about it then, that was really one of the only things we had was music, like when I would have some extra money, I'd go buy like a CD, like we'd go to the wall or like Sam Goody. We didn't have cell phones or internet then. So, um, yeah, I'm definitely still a big music person, but it's just kind of funny how, things have changed, and we've got to see it firsthand, just such a monumental shift. But yeah, no, back then music was everything. What else were we doing? So
Yeah, it was definitely like kind of the lifeblood, and we always, I think, with our memories, we often use music as kind of those markers of, oh, here's this song, here's this song. I remember where I was in life. I remember where I
of
was in
course.
life.
Oh
And
yeah,
of
man.
course,
I still do
we could
that.
and we could talk about it a little bit later. I always like to ask who was your favorite artist. I'm sure I know who it is. I wore a fucking T-shirt for you here of I don't know if you can see this. I'm
Yeah, yeah, I
rocking.
can see the top. Oh, is that it's Juice? Okay. Yeah, yeah, of course, man. Classic. Love it.
Um, but yeah, just music is such a great marker. So that's probably why one of the biggest reasons also that you just stand out, because as these things were coming out, we'd always chat it up about it.
Yeah.
Um, but when did you? I don't know. When it's always my first question. When did you come into like the Wissahickon? Were you born in the area?
Yeah, man. So I was born in Norristown. Lived in an apartment in St. David's, like Wayne area with my parents. till I was 2, I guess. And then we moved to Bluebell. And yeah, that's where I lived, my whole childhood. I went to Stony Creek Elementary School. So yeah, man, I was always Wissahickon, Stony Creek to middle school and high school. My family's still in the same house today.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. Very few are still in those same. I think Kim Clauder,
Yeah.
still in the same
Mm-hmm.
spot. So that's cool.
Yeah, man.
Who were
Yeah.
you hanging out with as a kid before you're like getting into middle school, high school, just growing up elementary school?
Yeah. Oh man. People I don't talk to now, unfortunately. I had a good friend, Zach, when he was like one of my first good friends when I was really young. And he moved to Singapore actually, when it was before middle school. So he was like one of my first really good friends in like first grade. I'm trying to think who else. Obviously, kids in the neighborhood, that you probably wouldn't be familiar with some of them because I lived right across the street from St. Helena's.
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
if you're
yeah.
familiar in Bluebell. So a lot of Catholic school kids in my neighborhood too. Wissahickon wise, I don't know if you remember Alex Fiambulis at all.
Yeah, Fee, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like Stony Creek days, like early on, But yeah, that was probably like, one my two like early best friends when I was, I don't know, 6 years old, 7, 8, when you first started having the sleepovers and stuff like that. Yeah, and then, just as you kind of get older, you keep in touch with people, but you get some new friends, obviously. Yeah, so Alex and Zach, and then I feel like Steve Taylor, and Drew Douglas. I don't know if you remember them. They were in my
Yeah.
second grade class with Mrs. Kolecki.
Okay.
And I wasn't really friends with them at that point. They both played soccer. Whip Pain Wave. I don't know if you remember like the green Whip Pain Wave, like soccer jackets,
No, no.
Nah.
I was Ambler, so I didn't do whip pain. I did 1 year of basketball. When I got to Shady Grove, I started doing WRA basketball, and I did
Okay.
maybe like 1 year of soccer.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was such a different world for me. I was not like a soccer guy at all.
Yeah, I never was either, man. I played WRA too, basketball, but no, I was never into soccer, as popular as it was. But yeah, it was like that was kind of the first like team you wanted to make when you were young was the Whip Pain Wave. Get the green jacket. But yeah, so
Dude, soccer
yeah,
seems so competitive. It seems I remember like baseball and Ambler was like whatever, and then you get to majors and it's like okay, it's player pitch, kids are throwing at you and shit. But then like I remember like Whip Pain for me was like such a different world because I didn't know anybody. Like in Whip Pain, I didn't grow up in the area. I didn't go to Bluebell. I was at Madison Avenue and then moving to Shady Grove. So I didn't know anybody, and I'm like playing with these like Chris Salvides and
I remember Chris.
And Pete Janiks, and I'm like, who the fuck are these kids? Just getting my ass kicked.
Yeah, man. I mean, pre-internet, like I said, that's another thing on the short list of things we did was, sports. When I had free time, I was probably outside. Like if I wasn't listening to music, playing basketball or football or whatever until Instant Messenger finally came around, at least. So, and that was kind of the turning point there.
Yeah, you weren't a video game kid?
Oh no, man. Huge video game person. That was like my first big gift for the holidays. I got Genesis actually. So I didn't have Nintendo. All my friends had Nintendo, and I was like the only one that didn't have it. So I was like, I have to get something. And Genesis had come out. That was the first Christmas that it was out. And I asked Santa Claus for it. And I got it. And I'm trying to think what year that was. It was, I think, second grade. It was either second or third grade. I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say it's gonna be like a 91, 92.
Yeah, and it came with Altered Beast and Ghouls and Ghosts. I got is like the another game that came with it. But yeah, man, that was like my biggest like Christmas gift ever. I just remember getting that. It was such a big deal. And yeah, dude, I played Sega like nonstop all the time. That was definitely probably the longest I, played like a single system. The next one, I guess, was Nintendo 64.
Yeah, that was the next jump up.
Yeah, from there. And then obviously with, Mario 64, Zelda, Mario
Yeah.
Kart, all those games. So yeah, man. No, I still play video games. Actually, I don't have as much time, unfortunately,
Yeah.
to do so. But yeah, I try to work it in when I can. It's for me, it's just one of the things that just kind of helps me just decompress, and unwind. Just kind of forget about everything going on. So again, not a lot of time to do it, but try to when I can.
I was a Nintendo kid, and then I made the jump to Sega. But like, it was. I remember the stress of those games were so expensive back then, right? Like
Yeah.
40,
I think they're
60
all 50.
bucks,
Yeah, I think new games have always been like what, 50, $60.
something like that. But it seemed like it was such a thing to go to Toys R Us and get the
Oh
little
yeah.
slip of
Yeah, you
paper, and
get
you
the
have to take
slip,
it to the
right?
counter.
Take it behind the counter. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like you always got like you look at the systems like, all right, I get these two games. You're not that fire. I got to get something. I can get like
Yeah.
one more game with it. But then like
Yeah.
I'd be sitting, you beat that game in like a month, and then you're just kind of sitting with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you're stuck. Yeah. No,
As
I hear
every
you.
as things got so much into like sporting games where and like and role playing games where you had to know combos and you had to remember stuff, I was not good at that.
Yeah, no, those games are tough, man. Like even now, like I have I don't have PS5 or any of the new systems yet. I'm hoping to get PS5.
For
I
this
was hoping to
Christmas,
get it. I was hoping to get it for the holidays, but unfortunately, it looks like you're still not going to be able to walk into a GameStop and buy one. So, I guess I'll stick with PS4 a little longer. I have Switch as well, but I actually have. I've had it for years, like an old. It's like a Sega Genesis collection. I'm sure there's like a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
them, but I don't play it a ton. But I'm just like, man, these games are hard. Like, I'm just like wondering how I was like good at these games, when I was like 8 years old,
I used
and
to
I can't play them now. So,
I used to think the graphics were so good. I used
oh
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
now I look back at these and I go, man, like Double Dribble sucks. These graphics are the worst.
What, Bulls versus Blazers? No,
Yes,
no
Jordan
good.
versus Bird.
Oh yeah, man. But it's funny that you said, because like when Genesis came out, like it was like, oh man, it was like 16-bit graphics. It was such a big deal compared to Nintendo. And we look at it now and it's like I was at my brother and sister's-in-law's house the other night watching my nephew play Madden, and I'm like, for a second, like just out of the corner of my eye, I thought he was watching a live game, and I'm just like, oh, like shit, this is actually Madden. Like, so yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's and you just think about in another whatever 10-20 years what it'll look like. I guess it'll all be VR at that point.
Yeah, you'll actually have to be running.
Yeah, right.
I knew Madden when I knew that was the moment for me to check out a video games. When I was over at a guy's house and everyone was blocking field goals. Like field goals were hard to get; they weren't gimmies.
Yeah.
And extra points. And I was like, oh, I'm not made out for this. I can't do this. You mentioned when you got to middle school, like friends kind of changed up. That was always like a kind of a big part of me wanting to do this podcast, because I would think about people that I felt like in elementary school, especially for me, like coming from Ambler, where it's a much smaller group, in Madison Avenue, which only goes to third grade, and then you move to Shady Grove, which went to fifth grade. But you kind of like, as the school pool gets bigger, you lose track of everyone that you kind of were hanging out with,
Yeah.
unless there's a real solid connection with somebody. For you, what was the thing that maybe helped you, maybe started your new group of friends, or what started solidifying who you were hanging out with as you were getting older?
And it's a great question. Yeah, it's funny. I remember who was I talking with about this? I don't remember. Maybe my nephew, someone that's going into middle school. But the point was, I remember that first day of middle school, just walking into. Everyone was in the gym, like kind of toward the back. Like if you go in the main entrance where like the swimming pool used to be, and you keep going straight, that gym toward the back. Everyone was in the bleachers there. And I had to be like one of the last people in. And I remember just walking in, like, and obviously I knew the people from Stony Creek, but I'm pretty sure Stony Creek was like the smallest of the three in terms of elementary schools. I don't know for sure. I know Shady Grove was the biggest.
Yeah, Shady was big.
Yeah, so I just remember it like walking in, and a lot of people were already kind of sitting together because they knew each other. And I'm just like I didn't. It seemed like I didn't know anyone. And I remember I got put in B pod, and like A pod was like, everyone was like, oh, A pod's like that's like the coolest pod. So I was like mad I didn't get put in A pod. But yeah, no, I was in B pod, and I think that's probably like kind of how, for me and a lot of people, we started gravitating toward like meeting new people and making new friends, was what pod you were in, because you didn't really. They should do that different. Like, I don't know if they still do it like that today, but they should have done it differently. Because you think about it, like, remember, like, were you there in sixth grade? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. I was
Okay,
6C.
so you were. I was just gonna say. So C pod, you guys were like on like the bottom floor. Like we had
As soon as
A-pod.
you walk in the building.
Yeah, we had A pod and B pod up top, and then C pod was on the bottom. So like A pod, I would at least like see in the hallway, but like I never saw C pod. Like
Right.
so it was just like there was no like opportunity to connect with those people. So they should have done that, like mixed it up differently. But yeah, I think for me, that's just kind of how it started, just in terms of meeting people. And then like through just like sports and stuff like that, or trying out for sports, just extracurricular stuff. I was in chorus just to go to, get to go to Hershey Park.
Right. Yes.
Like a lot of
Yeah.
people,
Wow.
yeah. So like that, I obviously met some people in there. I think didn't we have like the camping trip at the end of the year in sixth grade?
Camp
Yeah, Camp Canadensis, right?
Yeah.
Was that it? Yeah. And then like, by that point I had already like, kind of like made some acquaintances with people from other pods. So that kind of helped like to make some new friends. But yeah, I think that's just kind of how it started. And then, every year you got a new pod. I think I was in B pod every year, actually. Maybe I think eighth grade I was in A. I know I was in. I don't remember.
That tracks. I was gonna say I was 7B and I was 8A, so that would track if I have like these like kind of benchmark memories of like different stuff around you.
Yeah,
that would make sense. Then it was the same pod for 7th and 8th.
Yeah, I had Mr. Foch, Mrs. Parker,
Schweighauser.
Yeah, Schweighauser. Yeah. So that was B pod, right?
Yeah, that was big.
I think it was B pod. Yeah.
And
so
then 8th
yeah.
grade was like England Gordon and Evans and Atkinson.
Yeah, I think, were you in my science class with England Gordon?
Yeah, that sounds right.
It was like me, you,
Steve
like
Johnson,
Eugene, and I think Eric Coxon were in that class. I know they were in my science class because we had like the four desks pushed together, to make like a table.
The quad.
And that was my table. So yeah,
I remember
that was my 8th grade pod.
What I remember about Mrs. England Gordon's class was I had science with Steve Johnson.
Okay.
And that was the class where we just every day would just sing Twisted by Keith Sweat. Because Steve had kind of like this whiny voice.
Yeah, he loved that song, man. I remember that.
And that was legit. That's just all class long, just singing that.
Yeah. That and Nobody, right? Those were like the
and
two.
Nobody.
Yeah, man, it's funny. That's like all my wife, like I still listen to 90s music. I love it, but that's like all my wife basically wants to hear still. So
yeah, that's
we hear Twisted quite often, believe it or not.
Yeah, so 7th and 8th grade, that was always my thing with the pods, was I felt like I had to always start over and never really knew like what the in was. Did you have like, I always felt like kind of like that group of friends, cool kids we'll call them, even if you don't consider yourself, but like just kind of like the group of kids that kind of were all connected to one another. Just felt like they were like 20, 30, 40 different kids that were like all kind of connected and could be friends with one another because they're friends with this kid. As you're going from pod to pod to pod, or even as you're getting to high school and you're kind of having new classes, you obviously can't hang out with the same people all day long every year. Did that make it easier? Just like, okay, this person knows this person knows this person. I've partied with this kid. I did this with this kid versus me who like, I had like 3, 4, 5 different friends, and it's kind of like, I don't see any of them. All right, hold on tight. It's gonna be a good year.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I mean, obviously, when one person knows someone else, it's kind of how you meet other people. But what's funny is like, and I've talked about this, several times, is like, I feel like and I said it earlier, like just tried to be pretty well-rounded. Like I definitely had a few like close, consistent friends, throughout school, but I feel like I just, tried to just get along with everyone or as many people as I could. Would go to different parties, with different groups of people. And like I said, I wish I would have made an effort to, make my entire high school and middle school career like that. And, not worry as much about, like this person like doesn't like this person I'm friends with. So, what I mean? Like all that kind of petty stuff that we look back now and we're like, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what Coxon kind of talked about just in talking about his life now, where he's like, we're all the same age, but being single and looking back at kind of like the crowd of having friends and how important that was to him and living that social life. And then he looks back, he's like, looking back now, it's kind of like all things being equal, didn't really amount to much as far as what matters in life at this point in our age.
Absolutely. It's a great point, man. And, I just think at that age, you're just too young, and naive to kind of put everything in perspective, and look at it through kind of a holistic lens, and really weigh what's important. So, I've had a lot of time to do that since high school. And, that's one of the things that I would have liked to have done differently. But yeah, you're right, man. It's you really kind of weigh, what's important in life, what's not. And, who you were seen talking to or didn't want to be seen talking to and all that stuff. Like, no one cares now, for the most part. And if they do, like, they probably don't have much going on. So
yeah, it definitely holds you back.
Yeah.
What you talk about like parties and stuff. What was your party world like growing up? I always felt I was very behind everyone else, or at least the most vocal. Right, you come in from on a Monday and you hear about this party, these people hooking up, this going on, these people doing this, and you're thinking like, wow, I was like sitting at home watching TGIF or watching wrestling. Or what was your party life like as you were kind of coming up early?
Oh man, is this a PG podcast? Like, I don't.
No, you could say anything if you want.
No, I'm joking, man. No, I mean, I did like probably all the typical stuff high school kids do. Got drunk for the first time at a party, and threw up, and I don't even know how I got in my house that night. Just kind of a mixed bag. I mean, certainly I feel like no matter who the group of people were, like there was beer or, people were smoking weed or exploring with smoking weed or whatever. So, it's what kids still do now. But I mean, unfortunately now I feel like it's a lot worse than that. It's not just beer and weed, it's a lot of other stuff. So, if that was the worst thing that I was around or tried, not as big a deal. So, but I don't know, man. I don't think it was really consistent, like in one area or another. I think most of your typical parties were just someone would get a keg or get someone older to, no names, buy them beer. But I'm trying to think like if I went to like a bowling party, where we were just drinking soda or something like that. I don't think I did. So yeah, man, I don't know. Like, sorry, that's not a real specific answer, but I think it was a mixed bag. I just kind of, if I was invited somewhere, I tried to go. I think as I got older, like towards the tail end of high school and was thinking about my future in college, I realized there were certain places that I shouldn't be. So tried to keep to myself a little more. But yeah, I don't know. I made the rounds like a lot of kids do.
Yeah. What did you want to, when you were like that age, middle school, high school, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what was your dream job, dream career?
Honestly, man, I didn't even, I went to Penn State and graduated still not knowing what I wanted to do.
Did you have like a ridiculous though? Like, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was
like when I was in first grade, I loved Michael Jordan like everyone else and wanted to play basketball, and quickly realized that wasn't going to happen. No, I mean, I think for me, like I did enjoy writing. Like I really liked the creative writing class I was in. We already talked about, like, I was big into music. So, what I didn't think about was just kind of the longevity and like career pathing and all that stuff and salary and, all the stuff that they should probably talk about a little bit more when you're in high school. So I went to Penn State and I ended up taking or declaring journalism as my major.
Oh.
And yeah, because it's writing. And I went to my first class and the teacher was like, "Where are you from? You have a terrible accent." Like, she's like, "You have a really strong accent." I was like, oh, yeah, I'm from the UK. Like, but it was clear, like, she didn't want me, like, she was annoyed I was in the class because I have kind of, I guess, like a stronger Philadelphia accent, which some people still tell me, even though I'm from Bluebell.
Yeah.
My dad's from West Philly, so I guess that just kind of genetically got carried to me. But like the class itself, I just didn't enjoy. It wasn't creative writing or anything like that. I was interested in more the creative side, maybe like sports journalism, but it was all just kind of political writing. I remember I went to one of like Ed Rendell's press conferences and had to cover that. And I was like, I'm not really enjoying this. So I was already, I guess a year and a half in, and I went to see one of the counselors. I was like, look, I need to like switch majors or whatever. And she's like, well, look, if you switch, like it's going to set you back because there's certain, courses you've taken that only apply to your major. So I did have to declare a minor. So I ended up going into just, general business administration, took some finance courses, things like that. That's probably the route I would have taken going into like finance or something like that. Had it been explained to me a little bit better, or had I taken the time to want to learn, you know what I mean? I don't know. I talk about this all the time, and, I think it's more common now for people to just not want to go to college because people, it's 17 years old. Who really knows what you want to do with the rest of your life, Yeah. And I think it's not fair to put a lot of kids in that predicament where it's like, nope, like decide now, like you got to make a decision rest of your life. What do you want to do? Oh, by the way, college is going to cost, into the six figures right. for something you're not sure that you want to do. So, if you are someone in high school and you have an idea of what you want to do, you're ahead of the game. So I think, as a parent now, like for me, that's like a big thing I think about all the time is just like having the conversation with my son that like, listen, dude, like you're not going to want to study. Like you're going to want to party. Like you're not going to want to do homework, but trust me, like just suck it up for 4 years because in the long run, like it'll pay you back. So just kind of explaining that to him. But yeah, I mean, look, it all still kind of worked out. So I can't complain.
That's the most common story that I hear when I talk to classmates now is like they kind of all went for assuming they were going to do something, but they didn't really have that guidance from school. No one really took them and said, here's how you do blank. And they kind of not wasted, but spent a year or two or longer realizing they were on the wrong path and had to change course. And, some went all the way through and never used their degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish there was something better to equip you for like, modern day. I talked about this with someone, I think it's Monica Shukri, where we were talking about like the expectations of going to college versus like tech school. Yeah. And doing stuff with your hands, and it was so frowned upon. And if I knew what I knew now, I just wish I wish even like I just had the guts to even give it a try and do something. I lack so many skills that I have to pay people to do, but the focus was just, you got to go. And for me, I didn't even know. I was just like, I guess I'm going to go to Monco because I didn't know. I was not mature enough to get my shit together. Right.
Like, me too. Exactly.
Fill out an application, write your essay, send it in on time. I still struggle with things like that, getting paperwork and just crossing T's and dotting I's. And it was like a rush to try and apply to Temple. And Temple's like, dude, like deadline is, you got this in like hours before the deadline. Why don't you give it a couple years and come back to us, So, and that felt like such a failure because everyone was saying you have to go to college. And I didn't even know what I wanted to go to college for.
Yeah, man, it's such a great point and something I talk about a lot. It's just like your point about tech school being frowned upon. It's just like, oh yeah, that's what you do. You graduate, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a job, you live your life. And when you look at it now, as someone who's been working for startups for the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years at this point, specifically in technology, I might've went to tech school, and the funny thing is it costed, and probably, I don't know today, what tech school tuition is. I'm sure it's not cheap, but I'm sure it's not on par with, some of your top tier colleges and universities out there. So, looking back, it's just, it's something I may have done because it really probably would have lent itself to what I'm doing today. But I think just the whole perception of, oh yeah, no, like I can't do that. Like I'm supposed to go to college. And don't get me wrong, like I went to Penn State, had a great experience. But in terms of, tying into what I'm doing today, and ultimately what I was interested in the long run, which I guess, if I had, is probably technology. I probably would have went to tech school, and you hear a lot of guys today, like the Mark Cubans of the world, coming out more and saying how, look, you don't have to go to college. And some even, calling college a scam and saying that it's a dying thing. And eventually, like, half the people are going to go to college, if that, because it's not going to be that just what everyone thinks that naturally you're supposed to do. And I think it's great that, people are now realizing that, what, I don't have to do that. Like that I'm not passionate about that, or maybe I'm just not ready, maybe now's not the right time. I do something else and I go later in life. So, to your point also, it isn't talked about much in high school. There's no courses on things like credit score or stuff like that, that is stuff that's just so pivotal in your everyday life today. Like I didn't even know what a credit score was.
Yeah.
So I was like well into college, so it's like, or I knew what it was, but in terms of like how to build credit and stuff like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
Did you have brothers or sisters?
Yeah. So I have one younger sister. She's 3 years younger than me. And yeah, she was in high school. I'm trying to think when I was
freshman when we were.
I guess she was. I guess she was a freshman when I was a senior. I don't remember. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. Yeah, she was a freshman when I was a senior. Hopefully, she doesn't listen to this, but it's been a long time, man. I don't know. Come on, 2001. It's 20 years.
Sounds right. That math sounds right.
Yeah, but no, yeah, I have one younger sister. She's 3 years younger. She's married with a son, so yeah, she's doing well.
So you were the first really to experience kind of that whole path through college.
Yeah,
the two of you anyway.
Yeah, man. And I think also just like going into high school too, like a lot of people have older siblings, so it kind of prepares them and they know their older siblings' friends. So like going into high school, they kind of know what to expect, or they know some older people, which makes them feel more comfortable. Yeah, definitely. Like didn't have any of that. I think me being older definitely, helped my sister when she was coming in because she already knew some of my friends. So all those nerves, like kind of that I talked about, walking in the first day in the gymnasium, she at least kind of had me and some of my friends to fall back on, when she was uncertain. So, yeah, there's definitely a learning experience.
Yeah. What was your, would that make then, would creative writing be your favorite class in high school? Or did you have a different favorite class or a teacher that
yeah, my favorite teacher was probably Mr. Curcio, man. I mean, wasn't that everyone's favorite teacher? Like, yeah, he like, it's like something would fall on the floor and he'd be like, hey, can you pick that up for me? He'd be like, you just earned 20 extra credit points. Like, it's like, he was just the coolest guy. But also I think just like he made his class fun, which I remember. So he was my favorite teacher. Favorite course, man, I don't know. Creative writing was good. Just because it wasn't so like there was really no pressure. Like it wasn't regimented. Like it was just like, hey, yeah, like write about this today. It was like kind of like almost like just like a break from all the hustle and bustle of your regular courses. So yeah, that was a good one. TV lab was probably the best class, man. I mean, we had a really good group in there too.
Creative types
with the crew we had in there. Yeah. And I know there's still a couple of VHS tapes lying around somewhere. So I don't know, hopefully I could track them down one day, but yeah, I remember we made like a sitcom, and we had like we did like the intro in the beginning with everyone's name, and then it would like pause, just like a 90s sitcom, like when they got introduced. Yeah. And I think like, it's funny. You were saying earlier, I think the theme song was, it was an Outkast song. I think it was Bombs Over Baghdad. Yeah. So yeah, man, there were some really creative tapes out there. I remember Mr. Malone even confiscated a couple. He said because like, oh, these aren't high school appropriate. But really, he just took them like for his own personal
Yeah.
collection. Cause like he told me when we graduated, he's like, hey, just so you know, he's like, I watch those tapes once in a while and I crack up. Like, so he just kind of took them as something to laugh at. But yeah, man, that class was obviously amazing. Like that was just such a fun class. I mean, who doesn't want to take a video camera and just walk around high school and film like stupid shit, you know? So
Jason Herb talked about that. It was just like this power that you were given. No one asked questions of what you were doing if you had a camera in your hand.
it's such a good point, man, because I don't know. Remember who was like the hall lady? She had like the short hair, like the
Mariah?
short, was that her name?
Oh, yeah, Mariah, right?
Yeah, she was pretty tough, right? Like no one wanted to mess with her. And you know, she was always like, oh, hall pass, where's your hall pass? But it's funny, like if Jason was saying that your camera was almost like your hall pass. So it's like, no, like it's like up TV lab. She's like, oh, all right, you're good, you're good. So
Obviously,
yeah,
someone saw me walk out of the class with this camera. They would have stopped me if I wasn't allowed to leave.
Yeah, right.
That was pivotal for me because like I was doing theater through high school, middle school, and high school, and I thought I would go to college to do theater. And I quit my senior year, and that's when I was doing TV lab. But I got so engrossed in TV lab that I was like, done. This is it. I'm whatever I can do with a camera forever. This is like what I'm sticking with.
Yeah.
And we had, like you said, we had a great group that ranged from like silly and creative to very like organized and buttoned up. Like we had Pinchatti and Brandon Deese and some of those guys that were like making like real projects, and we were able to do like a news program where we were like getting work, and then like the rest of the time just kind of go fuck off.
Yeah, I remember. I think Mark Pinchatti had like a weekly like kind of
talk show.
Yeah, it was like, and it was kind of like just what's going on in the school. And I remember a couple of times I did with Kevin the Prosperous it was like, I don't know, like a music section. It was like, oh, like what's new in music, you know? We do like the top like 10 like on the Billboard charts and like talk about the albums and stuff. So yeah, man, good times.
Yeah, that was very pivotal for me. I don't know what I would have been doing if I hadn't done that.
Yeah, no, I remember you were really into it, and you know, we did a lot of projects together. So like I said earlier, not surprised that, you know, it's kind of held up for you, you know, all this time, and you have your own podcast now. So happy to see it.
Thanks, man. Well, likewise, I've got a few VHS tapes. Someone was asking me the other day, like, what do you keep VHS tapes for? And I said, honestly, I just know that like of the 9 that are unmarked, like 2 of them have Wizahik and stuff on it, but I'll kill myself if I throw it out without going through the tape first.
Yeah, I got a VCR in the storage room somewhere. So one day I'll have to there's also a box of VHS tapes like yourself, some unlabeled. So one day I'll have to hook it up and just kind of see what's on there.
You got to let me know if you find something.
Oh, I definitely will, man. I'll make you a copy. If you can. I don't even know if you can get VHS copies made today, but if I find any, I'll be sure to get you one.
Yeah, I've been Googling all like how to transfer the video into
like the VHS to DVD converters.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're leaving to go to college, what's your friend group like, and where's everyone kind of going? Like you've got like a pretty solid group of kids that you've known since the beginning.
Yeah.
Now you're leaving this group of friends. A lot were going to Penn State, but Penn State's really big and doesn't mean that you're going to match up with the guys that you were maybe hanging out with.
Right. Yeah.
What's that like leaving?
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually went to the Hazleton satellite campus to start. I actually visited main campus, but I didn't want to go my first year because I was just too overwhelmed. Like when I went to visit it, it kind of put it in perspective for me, like, you know, what I thought and how easily I'd blend in right away. But I don't know. I guess at that age, even though I felt like I was ready to go to a campus with, I don't know, what is it, 40,000 people, walking around, going to visit, 4 hours from home, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, if I could do this, like just from the whole aspect of like being disciplined enough to go to all my classes and study and not get caught up in partying. So I actually started at the Hazleton satellite campus, which was before I went to main campus, which was about an hour and a half from here. And 2 people from Wissahickon that went were Kevin Rogers and Mike Roberts.
Okay.
Actually ended up living with Mike Roberts my second year in an apartment off campus, which was a great time. And it's funny, we both kind of made like different groups of friends, but at the same time, like those two groups would get together a lot and kind of hang out. And so having like that connection, like it's funny, like that Wissahickon connection kind of still held true and helping me meet new people by just people that I knew. Oh, hey, I went to high school with Adam. You know, this is my friend so-and-so. Oh, I went to high school with Mike or Kevin or whoever. So I met people that way too. But the funny thing was, you know, the reason I look back now and I still think it was a good move. Like, I don't regret it. I think it was the right decision because it was basically the size of Wissahickon, the Hazleton satellite campus. So, you know, we were all in dorms, obviously, but it really felt like a lot of us called it 13th grade because it really just still kind of felt like high school. We were staying overnight. So that's kind of where I made, you know, my core group of friends. And I lived with a lot of them, you know, when we all went up to main campus. And that really helped to go to such a big school already with, you know, with a big group of friends that you were going there with. It didn't feel like you were going by yourself and I don't know anyone at all. So I think that was the best move for me at that time.
That's funny. That's what Monco was the 13th grade as well. For me, I felt like a lot of embarrassment over that, you know, and I remember and I felt the same way about Temple Ambler because my first semester transferring to Temple, I took most of my classes, I think all but one, I took at Ambler campus. And I remember that very first semester, I was seeing the exact same people from Monco, which were the exact same people from Wissahickon. And I remember thinking, I got to get to main campus. This is too small.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I mean, it's, you know, and like, I know people like Drew Douglas went to Arizona State, which is, I think Arizona State's the biggest school in the country. It's one of like the top three, I know for sure, but he went right away, loved it, like partied and never came back and just ended up moving out there. So I think it all depends on like, just, you know, how you are as a person. Some people are more ambitious. Some people want to take it slow. For me, it felt like the right thing.
It took me 2 years to get to that point, you know. I definitely, when I first started, because I didn't have those group of friends, the people I was seeing from Wissahickon at Monco were not like people I could like lean on or latch on to, like, oh, hey, you know, remember me from, it was like, oh God, like shit, that tension, you know, that high school tension that you feel.
I'm trying to get away from you. It's like,
yeah, like please don't tell them about, you know, about what I used to do in high school. So for me, it was like that. Not until I joined the radio station and started like meeting people and getting into stuff, did I really like start developing my own just group of friends and things to do, and to where I was like, oh, okay, now I'm ready to like leave this kind of smaller, like much like what you did, where I was like, okay, I can handle going off and starting with a new, because I really did when I went to Temple start with a new group. No one really transferred with me from Monco, but I was just so much more mature, I think, at that point.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, you know, everyone has different pathways, but yeah, I think you just kind of know, like in your gut, you know, when you're ready to kind of take that next step.
Did you work in high school?
Yeah, my first job ever, I was a caddy at Meadowlands Country Club, which is now, I think is it Bluestone? I think is now what it's called. So it's next to did you know, you didn't know where Meadowlands was? It's actually not that far from the high school. Okay, yeah. So it's where Meadowlands was. So it's no longer Meadowlands. It's now Bluestone. That was my first job, just caddying. It was brutal, man. You'd like go like, God, like 6 a.m. You'd like sit on a bench and basically wait for the caddy master to call you. One of the first guys I caddied for, I think he might have been the first guy, was Robin from Robin's 8th and Walnut. I remember we were all sitting on
our name is our address.
Yeah. We were all sitting on the bench. He pulled up. I think it was a Rolls Royce. It was either like a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. Pulls up in his like Rolls Royce convertible, right up in the caddy station, pops his trunk. I actually got his clubs out of his trunk for him. He gave me $20 just for getting his clubs out of his trunk, which was like, I was like, man, this, why haven't I been doing this my whole life?
Does he have the diamond?
Oh yeah, he had the diamond in the beard. Yep. He had the diamond in the beard. Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The diamond was in the beard, man. I think I heard a story. He like lost it once on the golf course and someone found it and returned it to him. I don't know.
What's that tip look like?
Yeah, seriously. I actually didn't end up caddying for him, but I got the clubs out and I got $20 out of it. So yeah, that was, so I just like, these were like summer jobs. I did that for a summer. I worked at my first, I'm trying to think if that was my first job. I actually worked at Domino's Pizza for a summer. I think that might have actually been, I think this was you know what? I think this was in middle school. I think the caddying was the first thing. And then I remember in 8th grade, I did the Domino's thing because there was one like pretty close to my house. You know, which obviously was just like a great experience, just like knowing what that's like. But yeah, it was just all to like have extra money to you know, take to college. And then I worked at Houlihan's, which isn't open anymore in Plymouth Meeting, and TGI Fridays, which used to be connected to Plymouth Meeting Mall as a server. So got some server experience there, you know, great everyone wants cash, obviously, to take to school. So yeah, that was pretty much the extent of my jobs, you know, while I was just in school, at least.
What did you do any activities like after school? Like what was your social life like when you would get out of school? What would that kind of be like?
Yeah. I played golf actually 1 year. I wasn't the best, but I was on the golf team. I'm trying to think what else I did. I took like a creative writing course. I think there was like was there like a flag football like league or something? I don't remember. I feel like there was some after school football thing I did. Never obviously played football, but loved football. I don't know, man. Like coming home and watching TRL, like yeah.
I've been talking to people a lot recently, people in our bracket of age, just how fucking crazy like TRL and 106 in Park and that whole phenomenon of coming home and recently remembering that in those countdowns, oftentimes they didn't even play the full song. They'd only give you like 45 seconds of a song, and then Carson would be like, that was, you know, Weezer, Hash Play. All right, going right next. And they would just keep on moving.
Yeah, that was weird. They'd give you like a snippet of the video. That was like toward the tail end of like MTV, like at least when MTV was good. Because I remember when I was younger, like, and didn't have cable, like it seemed to be like videos all the time, you know?
Right.
And good videos. And then it was like just all these shows. It's funny. My wife and I actually on YouTube, I don't know how we thought of it or who brought it up. We ended up looking up Singled Out. Remember Singled Out?
Yeah.
And there's a few episodes on YouTube, and we watched a couple of them. Really good, man. Really good. Like I'm surprised they don't try to remake that today. I just feel like I don't know, with all like the dating apps today and everything. I just feel like it would really kind of go over well.
It is The Bachelor, right? Or The Bachelorette.
I mean, I guess, but that's like a whole like series where people get eliminated. Like Singled Out was just like
half hour.
You know, it was one episode,
quick and dirty.
It was a guy and a girl. They eliminated people, and then and that was it. It's just more of a fun show. But yeah, we watched that, and then I told you my wife loves the '90s, so The Grind. Remember the Grind?
Yeah,
The Grind. Just like people dancing, like just people dancing on a beach or at a pool. But,
I love the I used to love the summer beach house seasons for MTV when they would just be partying on the beach and it'd be like Bill Bellamy and Daisy Fuentes. Bellamy.
Yeah, it's funny what we would watch, but
all right, so that's a great tee up then. Favorite album artist of high school era?
Of high school and ever, or just
high school era?
Do I get
high
one?
School era.
Oh, high school era.
Yeah,
Ooh.
give me like three. Give me like your top three.
That's so tough, man. I can't do that. Jeez. Well, I mean, I will say, like, I don't think we realized at the time the golden era of music we were living in. You know, it's funny. I remember being in the car with my parents, like driving in the shore one year. And I was listening to Nevermind, Nirvana. And both my parents were like, oh, like, Nirvana will just end up as another band that people forget about. I'm just like, okay, like, and you know, of course, today, like one of the most legendary bands ever. But oh man, I don't know. Definitely listen to a lot of hip hop, but I listen to everything, man. Like I was like a lot of people in the BMG and like Columbia House
Oh yeah.
CD clubs, you know, like 12 CDs for $1 or for a penny, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would get just a ton of albums from that. Oh man, it's so tough to narrow it down. All right, help me out here. Give me
All right.
like a date range. Are we talking just the high school years? Like what?
All right. I'll give you like the full like 7, 8 years of
Okay. So,
like 94 to 2001, like
oh,
93, 94 to 2001.
such a good era,
Our
man.
whole era. That is actually like 93 to 97 is like my favorite. Like that celebration of hip hop after Biggie and Pac had died, where
Yeah, no, that
Puff
was a
just
great,
went
like that Big Pun DMX kind of era. That was a
like
phenomenal era.
up
Yeah,
till like the end of like 98. That's like
yeah.
my favorite era when Busta had just dropped
Yep.
Solo and all that. Like that was
Mace.
yeah, I
Yeah.
loved Mace.
Dude, Harlem World, that's a good. That was, yeah, man, that was 97, 98 were such good years. Not just for hip hop, but just music in general. But you know, it's funny, like, so you know what's funny? I guess the album that got me into kind of like harder core rap, it's funny. I was in 5th grade and I sat next to Chris Gebert. We were talking about, you know, people that we know. We were good friends back then. And he had the cassette tape of Doggy Style, of Snoop's
Yeah.
album. And I, you know, like all the other kids, I knew Gin and Juice, loved that song. I actually put it as my favorite song in our 5th grade yearbook. So, but I hadn't heard the whole album. So he let me borrow it. And I just couldn't believe like the language. Like I never heard anyone talk like that. And I don't know how my mom like ended up finding out, but she ended up like taking my Walkman and like
Mm.
listening to some album. And she was obviously just like completely appalled. Because if you ever heard the album, it's to this day, it's pretty explicit, but it's such a classic album. So that might be just for just like the meaning it has behind it for how it kind of spiraled me into not just hip hop, but just a lot of music in general. That might have had the biggest impact. So I might have to say that album. I'm trying to think if that was 94. I think it was 94. I think the Chronic was 93. It might have been 93 actually. So I don't know. Maybe I missed the cutoff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think Chronic was 92 and Doggy Style was 93.
I think you're right, man. I think you're right. So I don't know. I mean, it's a year earlier than.
But you know those singles and everything, like music just had such a longer shelf life, and singles would last 2 to 3 months before the next one would drop. So like that Doggy Style album lasted like 2 years.
Oh yeah, and to this day, it's it's looked at as like a top 5, top 10, rap album. So, yeah, and then that really got me into like the whole Death Row Records kind of thing. Obviously, I love Tupac, so All Eyes on Me. Even before then, I loved like Me Against the World, all those albums when he was in like Above the Rim because I loved basketball. Loved Michael Jordan, like that whole thing. So I loved the Above the Rim movie. I just loved his whole. Just kind of speak your mind and say whatever I want, no filter. I'm going to tell it how it is kind of attitude. I think that's why, I just always loved Tupac so much. So I'd say those two in terms of hip hop albums, even though there's so many great ones. I was just listening to Capital Punishment the other day, which I bought I remember my freshman year, and I don't remember his name. He was from Ambler, and he must have known someone who like knew Big Pun because the album wasn't coming out for like a month.
Oh, wow.
And he had a box of the actual album, like in the shrink wrap with the sticker on it. And I still have the copy, and he was selling them for $10 in the hallway. Wow. And I knew it was coming out because I was like reading The Source or like, all those magazines, and, Big Pun was like, Still Not a Player just came out. And like, that was like, that's to this day, like that was one of the biggest rap songs while we were in school. So, I remember getting that, and like that was a huge album. That's probably my favorite, like 97, 98 kind of era album, hip hop album. That and maybe like Mace Harlem World is another just. I remember having that in my yellow. I had that in Mr. Lazar's class or Mr. Lazar. Mr. Lazar's class. And I think like the power went out or something. And I had it in my yellow Shockwave Discman. And I remember like Earl Stout was in my class, Ashley McLaughlin, and the album had I got it the day it came out and I brought it in the next day. So we're all like listening to the Mace album, like on my headphones. So yeah, and it's funny because like like you said earlier, when you hear certain songs or think albums, it takes you back to a certain time. So those are obviously all classic albums, but the fact they have kind of that nostalgia factor built in definitely, I think, moves them up my list. I'd say in hip hop albums in the 90s, I don't know, man, there's so many good ones.
There are.
I know when we end this, I'll think of one like, oh, how could I not say that? But just off the top of my head, those are a few that, to this day, I still listen to all the time. Rock wise, I liked what a lot of other people liked. Man, I remember in 6th grade, like Green Day, Dookie was so huge. Oh, yeah. Offspring, the Offspring album was huge. I forget what it was called.
Smash,
the one with the X-ray on the front. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Nirvana was amazing. Pearl Jam 10. Those are pre, your date range, but just kind of thinking of that whole 90s era. Those are a little bit more generic on the rock side, but classics.
No, that was like the start of like alternative music and Y100 and
that was like Y100.
Like 6th grade, 7th grade, like that was the era where I really started discovering. Up to that point, all I knew was like my parents' music and hip hop.
Yeah,
my parents' music, pop music on the radio, Shanice, I Love Your Smile, shit like that,
yeah.
Right? And
Eagle 106.
Yeah, Eagle 106, man, yes.
I know all this stuff, Brad.
Yes,
come on,
that was my shit.
Yeah, man.
And like hearing Snoop and Dre like on the radio, but never really like hearing
the dirty version.
But then like getting into like Y100, you talk about memories. Like I'll always remember when I come around at Camp Canadensis, that was like the song, and all the kids had the floppy haircuts, and so everyone's just like
the bowl cut. Everyone had the bowl cut.
No, not just the bowl, but where they shave underneath, and then
you got
the comb under.
Yeah,
the comb over.
I wanted that like haircut so bad, but I always had like kind of wavy like hair, and never like I was so jealous of like the kids with the blonde hair that it just kind of like perfectly laid.
Yeah.
So I I had the bowl cut for a few years, but it didn't work the best for me. But yeah, I would go there. Like I remember him like lifting my hair up, like shaving under the head, like holding the hair, and then it would like fall over it. I don't know, man. I don't think anyone has a haircut today, but back then apparently everyone did. So
that was it definitely was like the style when you go through the middle school yearbook. That's what everyone's rocking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Similar story with, for me, my first like I used to stand at the bus stop as a kid, and we used to listen to kids driving by listening to rap music, and we never realized that you could buy like tapes or CDs with like the real version on it. And we used to like ponder at the bus stop, what radio station's playing these songs with curses on them?
Yeah.
So when we finally started like listening to like rap music, rap CDs, and I started catching wind of, they curse on them. My first album that I got was LL Cool J's Mr. Smith album.
Oh yeah, classic.
So
man.
I was a late bloomer. That was my first. That was like 8th grade.
Yeah, with like Doing It and Hey Lover on there. Great album.
Exactly. Yeah. And then my first like oh my god experience was Machiavelli.
Yeah.
And going to Ellis Island. I've told this story before, but going to Ellis Island. And it was like me and a bunch of family friends, and Mike Mail was one of the kids. I don't know if you remember Mike Mail, but he had the Machiavelli album, and he lets me listen to it on my Discman, and like we get right into Hail Mary, and revenge is like the sweetest joy next to getting pussy, and I take off my headphones and go, yo, Mike, he says pussy in this, and Mike's like, I know, and it was like my world was just was expanding, like, oh my god.
Yeah, like people can say this in music, yeah.
But where it really changed was when you started selling the Tupac tapes, the bootleg Tupac tapes.
Oh yeah, man, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That like seriously, that like changed my world. I never knew that there was underground music or unreleased music or like this music that was floating out there that you could get a hold of. And I never even thought of the idea of like making your own mixtapes, like, so officially, because I used to like, you just record off the radio, right? But you were like
playing pause.
Yeah, but you were like writing the track listing on the, like you made it like a real thing, and you had like a cover and all that.
Oh, I love doing that, man. You know what's funny? Like to this day, I actually had the pleasure about 10 years ago of, helping to produce a mixtape for one of my friends. It wasn't like a major thing. It's on like that Piff or whatever.
Yeah.
I helped make some of the beats for it. And, to your point, helped organize like the order of the tracks. Like this needs to be track number 3. Like this needs to be track number, like just the flow, like the way that, and I think people that are really into music, like understand that. People that are just casual are like, what, like, why does that matter? Like I just skipped to what I want to hear, but it's like so important, just kind of like how stuff goes. So that's always been a passion of mine. And yeah, it's funny, back then, I would make mixtapes just by like, you put the CD in, hit like record play or record pause, whatever it was, put the next CD in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just always enjoyed doing that. And I have like an external hard drive to this day. I don't do it as much now. The last few years, to be honest, I've gotten away from it, becoming a parent. You have a lot less time to do stuff. But I've just tried to just keep a library basically of just, everything that I listen to, like go back and get old songs. I have, I don't know, 10, 20,000 songs on there. But that's something I did for a long time, even just for myself, just to kind of like keep a catalog. It turned into like mix CDs. I went from the tapes using like the WinMXs and like Napsters and
LimeWire.
I think was it
Kazaa.
Yeah. Take like 2 hours to download one song. You'd put like 5 overnight and you get like 3 and you're like, yeah, it was like a big deal. But from that to, then just, downloading stuff off the internet. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just something I've always enjoyed, just kind of having like my own hand into like, I'm going to make this the way I want. And it's going to be the only one in the world. Just going back to the whole creativity thing, like how I enjoyed creative writing. I think that's another point. Like I just always enjoyed music for whatever reason and just trying to have a hand in it. So something.
I went the exact same path. Once I learned that, once I saw that, like that's exactly what I started doing. I remember when I got my first CD burner, and all of a sudden, like now I'm making CDs for people for like $5-10, like burning like, yo, the new Jay-Z's out, the new Wu-Tang's out.
Yeah.
And I'm selling them to kids in math class for like $10-15 or whatever.
That was a hustle back then.
Oh,
believe it or not. People would buy blank CDs with music on them.
And I'm the same now. I've got like, I still run off of iTunes. Like I've got, and I'm constantly like, hey, you know what? Like I don't really know like all my Mobb Deep. Let me just get all the Mobb Deep albums and start like putting that into a playlist. And I've got like 50,000. And I've still, I got my genres, my years, like everything, so I can make my own playlists. And
that's where I'm at too, man. It's funny. I've Apple Music, and those are my mixtapes now, like my playlists. And it's a little more regulated because you're picking from whatever is in the library, but there's still, just in terms of, to your point, like 90s playlist stuff like that. I do that stuff all the time, just like certain artists, like best of whoever, like I just like doing that stuff. So just something that I've always enjoyed.
I know you dated. I didn't date, so I was always like just so awkward. I didn't know how to date. I didn't know like where you go. For dates. I never like thought you could like bring girls back to your house. Like it was just very awkward for me. What was your dating world like?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few girls. I don't want to air out anyone's dirty laundry, so I'm happily married now. So got married in 2015. Have a son. So I had a more serious, I guess, relationship my senior year that I went to college with, and obviously it didn't work out. Shocking. And then I had a relationship in college that was pretty serious. Didn't end up working out. And then getting out of school, that was tough for me for sure, because going back to kind of what we were talking about just the whole perception of college, like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to college and know what I want to do, and I'm going to graduate and my life's going to be set for me. And it's not like that. I think the whole thing with the dating was, I was with someone, for a while while I was in college, and thought that was the person I was going to end up with. It didn't end up working out. And that was a challenge, for sure, because I had that on top of, getting out of college and still not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life. So it was like, I kind of, I hit the reset button on that and was uncertain in, the more important area, and I definitely felt kind of lost, I think, the first couple of years out of college. Like I didn't have a problem getting a job or anything like that, but it was just like, it was just like, is this really what I want to do? Like I went to college for 4 years for this. And I think I just kind of struggled with that for a while. But as I, as the years went by, I had a couple jobs, and then ended up meeting my wife, actually on Facebook Messenger. I knew her. Yeah, I knew her beforehand. She went to a Catholic school, but I was living in Conshohocken in my apartment, and she friended me, and I was like, let me just say what's up, like, and said hello, and we ended up talking, agreed to get a drink, ended up dating and getting married. So but yeah, I think it's, there was a few people you think that you're gonna, every time you date someone, you think you're going to be with them forever. It's like, it seems like it's the most important thing in the world. And then I think like, as you move to the next one, you realize you didn't really know what you were talking about, or, you thought you did. So yeah, that was definitely a learning experience too. But yeah, it all led me to, where I'm at today. So I'm happy, I love my wife. She means everything to me, her and my son. So, yeah, it all worked out.
Did you have like, where did you get those expectations, do you think? Like when you talk about just, whether it be career or relationships, I watched a lot of TV. I was an only child. So like you, didn't have like an older sibling telling me this is what school is like or anything. I pulled my shit from Saved by the Bell and 90210 and movies. Is that you getting your shit from TV, or where are you getting your expectations from?
Yeah, I mean, I think not as much from TV. I think just from just kind of general perception, right? Like just what your teachers tell you, like your guidance counselors. And it's like what we were saying earlier, like not that what you learn in high school isn't important, but there's a lot that's not even touched on that you kind of, when you think about it today, you scratch your head. You're like, how could that not be, an area of importance in high school, and helping, like develop someone as an adult. So I think just general perception. My parents, wanted me to go to college. So it was just kind of like, like that's what you do. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's just I guess the way I was raised. And I think a lot of kids in our graduating class, it was the same thing. And I think, to what I was saying earlier, I think today, obviously there still are a lot of people that feel that way. And look, college is great, like if you want to go, but like you don't have to, you know what I mean? There's so many people today, starting their own business, so many startup companies. Like I don't think startup companies were even a thing when we were in in high school. And as I said, I've been working for startups for the past like 10 years now. So, and it's been probably the best time in my career, and where I've learned the most and been able to develop the most professionally. So, yeah.
That's, it's life experience that helps you get to those points. But, I marvel at people who have that, not that they had it figured out, but who were able to make those kind of big leaps and those things that we had never heard of before. And that's what I often ask is like, where do you even think of that? Like, how do you even hear that? And there's always like, usually someone that like helped influence them, get them to that point. I think I just kind of like lacked that type of modern day guidance.
Yeah, I think, one story I'll tell you is, I think for me, what was always kind of in the back of my mind was my father. He didn't come from a lot. He grew up in West Philly. He was an only child. His father passed before I was born. He had a heart attack, so I never got to meet him. And he didn't inherit anything, and he always worked his ass off. And when I was born, he actually was an ice cream man. That was his job. He had an ice cream truck. We were living in the apartment in St. David's, and he would drive the ice cream truck down to West Philly, drive all around Philadelphia, for cash. And that's how we paid rent. We paid bills. I remember he told me a story one night when we were in the apartment that we were so broke that we ordered a pizza, and my dad remembers digging through the couch for loose change to help pay for the pizza. And he eventually sold the ice cream truck, got out of the business, and he got a job at a store called Today's Man. I don't know if you remember. Yeah, it's not around anymore, but back in the day, it was like it was a place where you would get a suit. It was basically like a men's warehouse.
Men's warehouse,
like today, right? So he was the guy. He was like a salesperson there, you know, helping businessmen get fitted for their suits and everything. And one day, he helped this guy that came in, and the guy was like, you know, he's like, you're a really good salesperson. Like, have you ever thought about like, you know, making a like a corporate career out of it? And he's like, no. He's like, why? What do you do? And he's like, he's like, I work for a pharmaceutical company. I'm in pharmaceutical sales. He's like, I'm a director. He's like, and I'm going to be hiring a couple new reps. He's like, here's my card. He's like, send me your resume. He's like, I'll get you set up with an interview. So my dad, like he knew nothing about, you know, pharmaceutical companies or anything like that. And I forget the number. It was like, I think it was like maybe 100 people. I know it was at least like 50 people. There were 2 spots and like 50 to 100 people. A lot of them with pre-pharmaceutical sales experience ended up interviewing for those roles. And my dad actually got one of the jobs as a pharmaceutical sales rep. And he was so appreciative to get the job that he was like, I'm going to be number one. Like because he drove an ice cream truck for years, like sweating in the summer, like driving in like not the best areas, like, you know, while trying to support me and my mother. So he was like, I'm never going back to that. Like, I'm going to be number one. He became the number one sales rep for the whole company. And he got promoted to like a manager, and he ended up ultimately what ended up happening was he ended up being there 26 years. He became a VP of marketing, like one of like 4 in the country. And he ended up doing very well for himself. And this is a guy who used to drive his ice cream truck over to the St. Helena's horse show, which in my neighborhood, that was like a fair back in the day. Okay. They would have, you know, it was like funnel cake and the whole thing. But kids would make fun of me. They'd be like, oh, your dad's the ice cream man. You know how mean kids are. So I always like, you know, I tell people that story sometimes, like when they're struggling or uncertain, and that just always, I think, has been in the back of my mind. Like, I have to be successful. Like, I have to go to college, and like, because my dad didn't have anything, you know, and he found a way to make it work. And, you know, my family's not rich, but, you know, certainly, we weren't poor. So, you know, I'm grateful to, you know, just how he busted his ass to enable me to, you know, go to a place like Penn State and, you know, just other stuff I've been able to do. So I just felt like, you know, I feel like I have to pay him back. And I just think that stuck with me forever. So I guess initially that would have been maybe a better way to answer your question. I think if I had to kind of dig to the root cause, I think that's just really what's kind of driven me and created the whole, no, I got to go to college and I got to do really well and I got to get a high paying job right away and like all this stuff. And it didn't work out like that, you know, exactly right away. You know, things are good now, but yeah, it took some time. So I don't know, man, I just always admired that. So I think that's probably, you know, the primary driving force for me.
It's funny how we take like these things from our parents and what we see. I think I took the much more liberal message from my parents of like what you do, not necessarily to be the best or be success or be like ultra successful, but don't hate the job that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Man. That's the most important. Yeah, and I think it's where, and I think that's the right message. It's just, I think we have to be more specific, like, because the whole like, oh, you can do whatever you want to do. It's like, okay, like I'm probably not going to be an NFL quarterback. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so no, I think like that is the right message, but I think also just making it a little more detailed, like in terms of this is what you're going to experience in that kind of career. You know, this is what you're going to go like that. So like looking at sort of the whole big picture and the life cycle of things. I think is what kids don't think about. It's just like me, like, oh, I like to write. I'm going to go into journalism. Like, you know, it's like, you got to kind of dig a little bit deeper. So, yeah, I think that's how we can improve. And, you know, certainly as a there's a country within our school systems elaborate on stuff like that, and the things like credit scores and all that other stuff.
Yeah, there's so many things like that in the world. That stocks that I wish like I was.
Stocks, it's another thing, man. I actually just got into stocks like a couple years ago, and like I love it. You know, I'm not like I don't have a huge portfolio, but like I'm really into it, and it's like why like didn't like why didn't someone tell me about this like a long time ago? You know,
I've always been so embarrassed by by those life things that I just never clicked for me and never like were really explained to me. Even the idea of like having more than like one credit card or like multiple bank accounts, things that you don't start thinking about at all. Like it took me, like you said, like it was in my 20s till I started thinking like, oh wow, I can't just keep all my money. I remember a girl told me, she's like, you just have a checking account, and I remember I felt so small when she told me that, when she was like responding like that. I was like, oh, do I need more do I need to put my money in like different places? I didn't even realize.
Not good enough for you.
And like when I think now, I even think like those are things that I know I would have to take finance for. And when people say they know how to do it, it's like, oh, you have like a friend that's an accountant?
Yeah.
How'd you get into that? And I just feel so ignorant to it all. It was embarrassing for a lot of years.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like I said, that, when I declared my minor, like when I started taking finance courses, like into my like sophomore and junior year, like that's when I first started learning about that stuff. So, it's interesting, what they don't teach you, but, the Pythagorean theorem and all that stuff, you're well versed on. So
no,
you're good.
What the pitch is, Adam? So, some point, I think, want to say like 2009, 10 or something like that, I thought about going back to school to get my master's in public policy, and I wanted to go to George Washington. I had to take GREs, and I do all this studying on vocab because it's math, vocab, and writing. And I took like honors calc, and I'm thinking like I'm a whiz in math, and I learn all these vocab words, like 300 new words I learned in a summer. And I go to take my test, and I kill the English, the vocab, I kill the writing, and I bomb in the math because I get there and I go, I don't know the last time I learned about tangents and sine and cosine and
100%.
I couldn't remember how to do algebra, like for the life of me. All that shit was just gone. It had only been like 5 years, out of my head, and I lost it all. So Pythagorean theorem, no.
Yeah, I remember. Hey, don't get it like twisted. I remember the term. I have no idea what the Pythagorean theorem is right now. Like, those geometry, and I mean, those are, I feel like for a lot of people, courses where you just, you study, to retain it, to take the test, and then you take it and you forget it, and you probably never have to use it again.
Never
at least
again.
For most people. So, yeah.
So you said that you kind of like, once you graduated, that you were able to kind of like find jobs and stuff, but when did you start like settling career wise to where you are now?
Yeah. I actually ended up, my first job, I ended up working for a subsidiary of Fidelity Investments for the mortgage division. Not what I thought I'd be doing, but as I told you, that I didn't want to do the journalism thing. So I was like, okay, this is like kind of my chance to get into a financial institution. And I did really well. I was in mortgage sales for them. And I remember there were guys like my age now or older. And I came in like having no experience and was like one of the top people in my first few months. And I think it's cause like, I just didn't know any better. Like I just didn't care. Like I was just picking the phone up, like calling whoever. Like I did not care about anyone hearing me on the phone. Like I knew I was poor in college, and I wanted to have money now. And I was going to do whatever I had to do.
Sounds like your dad.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's funny. It's definitely probably a similar mindset to, that he had back then. But yeah, so I ended up like one of my first months, I was number one on the whole sales team of like, 50 people. And I got a really nice commission check, like a lot, like even today, it would be a lot of money. And I was living in an apartment in Conshohocken, was living with a few friends. It was basically a continuation of college. Like we were partying all the time because we weren't ready to give up college. So I was like, oh, okay. I was like, this is it. I'm like, this is this is what corporate life, like, I'm going to get these checks every month. Like, I'm good. Like, so I just blew like that, like, just like on just ridiculous, like shit. Like I remember like I'd go to the bank and take like a wad of cash out just to like have it to like walk, just because I wanted to feel like, yeah, like whatever, like just buying drinks at the bar, like buying like 5 video games, just like stupid, like ridiculous shit. Then the whole mortgage crisis happens. The whole subprime mortgage crisis happens. This branch of Fidelity Investments goes out of business. Wow. So we all got laid off. So that was it. It was like, so then I was at a crossroads, because, as you know, then like that's when we went into that recession then in like 2008. It was tough for a long time. And I tried going to a couple other financial institutions, and I had some success, but like it was just so brutal then, because like in terms of the mortgage industry, you had people living in homes really they had no business living in, to be honest, where they owed more on their mortgage than the value of their home. And just in these just ridiculous situations, there was no way to get out of. So then I realized like I got to hit the reset button. Like, this isn't for me, at least not right now. Like I can't live in a nice apartment in Conshohocken and be able to pay for this. So I hit reset, and I think that's kind of where I got in. That is actually when I got into the startup world. And I stayed in like sales, account management in a lot of roles. But it wasn't consistent in terms of the industry. Like I worked for a company for a couple of years that was like selling leads to insurance agents. Like we had a website and we would collect information from people that wanted insurance, and then I would sell that information to people. So I did that. Like, and it was, but like I wasn't happy, because I was like, what the hell? Like I went to college for this. Like this is just some random like freaking job. Like I'm just taking. So
anyone could have been plugged into that.
Yeah, exactly, man. So I had a couple like that. Then I went to work for IBM. Which was good, from the company standpoint. But the problem was the environment was just so toxic, man. Like the head of sales there was just like, she was just like not a nice, like just a bad person, and like had favorites on team. It wasn't even playing field. There was a lot of shady shit going on. I knew that. And I was getting older, and like I kind of started panicking, because I'm like, shit, like I'm out of school like 5 years now, and I'm looking at like other people on LinkedIn that are with the same company since they graduated, already getting promoted. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell I want to do with my life. I'm not like with anyone, and just starting to feel like I'm like a loser, just like completely waste, like you went to college for no reason. Like, but I just kept, one thing about me, I just think like every new career, new position I've taken, I've been ambitious and like just not settling. Just like, no, like this isn't it. Like I got to get to the next thing. And then from there, I've had the luxury of being able to work for a few really solid startup companies. I worked for one in Conshohocken called Monetate, which is a pretty known name in the startup world. Their former CEO was on the cover of Philadelphia Magazine a couple of years ago. And that, I feel like that's really where it took off. I did really well there. And that put me in position to be able to finally save money to put a down payment on my home with my wife, buy her a nice engagement ring, like kind of all that stuff. I was there for a couple of years. So I kind of knew like, okay, like SaaS, like software as a service, like startup companies, like I like this vibe. It's the whole kind of like Amazon, like Zappos, like Silicon Valley, like couches in the office, ping pong tables, beer cooler, all that stuff. Like I just like the whole kind of laid back vibe, but also the opportunity to, work with cutting edge technology and make decent money if you do okay at it. So from there, I worked for a couple other companies. I'm at my current company only 6 months now. But prior to that, I was at a company for 6 years, which was the longest I was at a company. And I think that's really where I finally felt like, okay, like, I'm building a career here. Like, I know like the industry I want to be in the Philadelphia area, the startup world, there's a lot of them, but it's it's kind of a tight knit group in like the forums, and a lot of people belong to the same like LinkedIn groups and stuff like that. So that gave me some good experience. And now I think I'm in a spot where I'm in a manager role right now, which is something I was doing at my last company. And I love it. I think I enjoy a lot of the people, or most of the people on my team are young. They're the age I was, when I was going through those struggles and just that uncertainty. And I think I want to help them, just kind of give them my life lessons, not that I have a, crystal ball and, I did everything perfectly, but just tell them like, it's okay. Like, if you don't see yourself being here for, your whole career, or, whatever it might be, if they're struggling with certain things or similar things that I'm to, just, hopefully being able to coach them through challenges. Cause I think now, like to our point earlier, we were pre-internet kids, at least, well, unless you consider like dial-up modem and instant messenger, you know what I mean? But we didn't have like the social media and all that stuff that adds that extra layer of pressure to a lot of the younger generation. So the opportunity to just hopefully be a mentor and coach some people and, give them positive feedback and just make them feel better about certain situations is something I really enjoy. So it took a long time, to get where I'm at. It's only been 6 months. I feel like I'm doing okay, but I think now I'm finally in a headspace where I'm not like getting down on myself and, I'm okay with where I'm at.
It's funny how that anxiety of the mid-20s and looking around to everyone who seems to be doing stuff and wow, they're a vice president already? How did that even happen? Like, what am I doing with myself? And as you get into your late 20s and you're really trying to figure out how that mirrors that end of high school, you got to go to college, everyone else is going to college, you already got early acceptance, you got a scholarship, you're moving away. Wow, what are my plans? It's funny how similar that anxiety is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
But much like that, had I known back then in my 20s, like had I known in my teens, that everyone or many people deal with that same uncertainty. Like you talk about what do you, not that you have that much to share. You do, just the idea that you had those feelings back then and it's normal. Man, if I'd known that over the last 15 years of my life, how normal this was, I would have felt so much better about the path I was on.
Yeah, because I think to your point, like no one really has it figured out, or only a small percentage do. They have kind of the beeline of what they want to do. And I think we all think like, oh, everyone else has it figured out except me. And I think it, in this day and age, like it has to be known that it's okay. Like, it's okay to be confused or not know what you want to do. In fact, it's normal. So, I think that's an advantage today, hopefully, that the younger generation has, that just from a lot of the, mental health awareness stuff going on today, that people are more accepting of, everyone not having it figured it out.
Yeah, and to your point about the internet, to be able to connect with people not just right in your immediate location, but to be able to reach out to other people or to hear other people's stories, people who share these types of things, you can see people's paths and go, oh, that guy just figured this out in the last like 2 years. Mm-hmm. I can do this. It's not people are so honest with vlogs and stuff like that, and as far as industry information out there. Versus having to read like it was the trades back then, I guess, or a good cocktail hour on a business trip, to get these types of stories or experience. Now so many people share this stuff. The internet really helps bring people into that world of community.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the areas that it's great for, and it's a positive thing.
Favorite movie in school?
Ooh, dude, I don't know, man. It's funny. I'm actually like everyone else in the world, love, a good binge worthy TV series now. So don't watch actually as many movies today. I just feel like movies aren't as like good now. I don't know. I still do, but you know what I mean? Like The Sopranos, I feel, was kind of the first one. In fact, I think we were seniors when Sopranos was on HBO. And I think that kind of really started the whole drama series thing. But you're right. Back then, it was all movies. I don't know, man. It's super generic, but I saw Forrest Gump in the theater, and I just feel like that's a good answer because it just, it just encompasses like such a large period of time and just so many different like human emotions and interactions. And I just feel like, I don't know, it's really generic, but Shawshank Redemption is another one that I absolutely, loved back in the day. I told you I loved Above the Rim in terms of like our hip hop movies.
Where we at on Belly?
Oh, obviously, like I loved all the mob movies, man, like Casino.
I
actually like Casino better than Goodfellas. I'm probably of the unpopular opinion in that group, but yeah, I don't know why. I just like Casino better. I love both, but I like Casino better. Yeah, I loved all the mob movies. I'm trying to think what else. I know there'll be some I'm missing. As I said, I do have a box of VHSs. There's definitely some VHS movies down there too. So dig through that, see what I still have laying around.
Where did you stand on Belly?
Oh, I love Belly, man. I actually, one of my friends, Eric, back in the day, he actually got, it's funny, he got the Belly bootleg from the Italian market.
Yes.
And it wasn't like, we used to get the bootleg with like someone would bring a movie, a camera in the theater. It actually was a promotional copy. So it was the real movie. It just had like, the subtitle at the bottom of the screen for promotional use only. So I actually got to see it, I think before it even went into theater. And I also ended up, I think, sneaking into the theater to see it too. But yeah, man, that's arguably, it's funny. I saw something on social media. Someone asked like, what's the best intro to a movie ever? And it wasn't like a hip hop page. It was just like, like it was like an entertainment page. And I immediately thought Belly just because the whole blacklight scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, no one's going to say it in the comments. And it was actually like the number one or two response. Like
back to life, back to reality.
Yeah. Not the best acting in all scenes, but filmed really cool. And, the whole thing with, the unfortunate passing of DMX, I actually watched it the night he passed. I watched it because I just, I was sad about it. And I was like, man, this is actually a really good movie. Like I didn't really it was like just watching it more back then because I thought it was cool. Like I'm listening, like I was a big DMX fan like everyone else. The Belly soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really like paying attention to like the artistry behind it or like what Hype Williams was trying to do from a director standpoint. And I think I hadn't seen it in years, and watching it most recently, I really admired just like the way it was filmed. The acting wasn't as bad as I thought, and I think it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, it's not the worst. I think Nas was just recently talking about DMX made him cry because he was so emotional when they were filming that movie that Nas broke down.
Nas wasn't the best actor in that.
No. And nor was T-Boz.
Yeah, no, DMX was pretty good actually.
X was good.
Look, it's not an Oscar-worthy movie, but it's just a great like '90s kind of hip hop film that to this day it's a classic. I guess like I don't know if it's considered a cult classic, but it's definitely still a movie a lot of people talk about today.
Yeah, I think it's a cult classic, and I put that one up there with like Ghost Dog as kind of like the.
I actually never saw that one.
Yeah. Really?
I remember that was wasn't that like a RZA movie? It was like a Wu-Tang soundtrack or something like that. Yeah, I never saw that
Samurai.
One. Yeah.
Because you know what it was with that? It was in that movie is a lot of faceplate action going on where the ninja where Forrest Whitaker as the ninja breaks into cars. And, and he always like puts the faceplate on of the car, with the lights and all that shit. And Belly, similar when they're always driving in the car, there's like the blue lights and stuff. And remember the faceplates used to have like all these different designs and equalizers and stuff that used to be able to, and that was 90s.
Oh,
that was
so
like
90s
world.
Yeah, man, so 90s.
The last thing I got to do is we got to pull out the yearbook picture.
Oh no, dude, it's so bad.
So you mentioned you had the bowl, but by this point you were done with the bowl.
Yeah, I did. I had kind of like the like semi bowl going. Like it was more like a fade, like into the bowl.
It's like and it's like highlights.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I had some sun in going on there. Is that what it was called?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Oh, dude, that was bad. Yeah, I kept like kind of like a hybrid of the bowl. Like I got like a fade, like so it wasn't just like the cutoff, like from the like shaved head to the long. And I think then started like gelling the top a little bit, got some length off there. So I actually stuck with that for a while, like into college.
went in
Sh-
with the whole
yeah,
the whole
shaved my
sun
head
in
a
there.
couple times. Here I have a hat on now, but my hair is probably a mess, man. Here you go. This I don't like how this is looking right now,
No,
but yeah, I got a little fade going on,
no,
so
you know who kind of looked
give
like
you a little
that?
sneak peek there.
Actually, you know who you kind of look like is Edward Norton like that.
Dude, oh my God, really? I can't believe you just said
I've never thought that you were
that.
right there. You look like Edward
You know
Norton.
what's so funny? Do you remember Julie Forster?
Yeah.
So my wife is friends with her. And we were at a party over the summer. I was actually my wife's sister's party. She's a little bit older. And Julie came with her husband. And he's like, dude, you look like Edward Norton. And I was like, dude, I've never heard that in my life. Like, I don't look like Edward Norton. So now whenever my wife goes out with her and sees her husband, I was like, hey, where's Norton at? Well, here you go. You're the second person now that said it in 6 months. So I don't know, man. Maybe I look like Edward Norton.
You're growing into a Norton. All right.
I guess. I don't know, man. Good actor.
Great actor. Great actor.
Yeah.
Let me read off your statistics here.
Oh, dude, I hate my quote. I put a Peter Tosh quote. I don't know why. I think I was into the whole like carefree kind of listening to a lot of Bob Marley at that time. I should have put a Tupac quote, man, for sure. That would have been way more representative of me. Or just anything else, maybe.
you do still have Pac in here. I'll just read. You got golf for 9th grade, like you mentioned. You got indoor track for 9th grade. You got
I did do that. Oh,
you got Key Club 10 through 12, and you got Aura, which your creative writing 12th grade.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too, man.
Here you go. Thanks to my family and everyone who stood by me when I felt like it was just me against the world.
Okay. So there we go. So I think that's what I did. I mentioned me against the world. I love like kind of the generic quote at the end of that song. So I probably should have put that in, but I think, yeah, again, I don't know. I was like on a Bob Marley kick or something. So I was like, I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'll put the Peter Tosh quote, but still incorporate Tupac. Like
you got a lot out of this space. You definitely did. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations. Neither are you here to live up to mine. I am what I am.
Is that not like a 16, 17-year-old quote if you ever heard one? Like just the whole rebellious, like.
I've been saying lately the pressure to put something on here that was like that seemed cool yet representative of you, yet something that you feel like would still be you years from now. Like the pressure was immense.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I'm sure that I don't know if you do this with all your guests, but I'm willing to bet a good majority of other people don't like the quote that they chose for their senior yearbook. So
correct. Every once in a while, like maybe like 5-10 people of like the 50 have like said that, oh yeah, this is still me, or they like remembered exactly, or it's like, wow, this is exactly what you were talking about. You nailed it, but so many are just like, oh, cringe.
Yeah. No, for sure, man.
No initials. One of the few. There's a lot, but I would think with someone that just kind of had like a good friend group like you, initials afterwards after your quote in your entry.
I didn't put initials.
No initials.
Wow. I don't. Or maybe I just ran out of room.
I was just gonna say
maybe I just only had a certain amount of characters. I was like, everyone knows my name, so yeah, that's all I can think of at least.
Do you keep in touch with anyone from Wissahickon still?
Yeah, I have a group text with a few people. I mean, to be honest, man, like not a ton of people. Like I bump. I'm still in the area somewhat, so I do bump into people here and there and shoot the shit, obviously. But I don't know, man. I think, going along with kind of the whole getting away from social media, I often joke that I haven't, but I always say I've retired from social life because I've really just kind of become a homebody, man. Like it's so funny when, like you were saying, when we were in high school and it was Friday or Saturday night. You like got panicked if you didn't have something to do. You're like, I can't sit home. Like I have, which is normal for that age. But then, you know, even when I got out of college, like I remember it would be Friday, like 10 a.m. and I'm calling people like, yo, like, what are we doing tonight? Like, just like so excited to go out. Which was just carryover from college. But I don't know at what point I did a complete 180. And now like, I really don't want to go out a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. I still love to do stuff, but if it's nothing crazy, like I'd probably rather just sit at home and like binge watch a good show, have a couple drinks. Like I don't know, something like that. Also, I think being a parent now, definitely adds to that. You just, you have different priorities, when you get to this point in your life. So I think it was just kind of just a shift with getting a little bit older. So yeah, I'm not that exciting right now, to be honest. So
comes with the age. I mean, I have no other responsibilities besides myself, and I'm at that point now where I'm just like, last weekend I was like, man, if we could just sit here and drink a little wine and watch a little TV and be asleep by 11:30, that would just be the dream right now.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Sleep till 11:30, man. I don't know the last time that's happened for me.
Sleep at 11:30.
Sleep at 11:30. Yeah.
Sleep at always up. That's the thing with this age. I'm up. I love being up early. I hate sleeping in.
I'm up early out of necessity. I will say I'm way more of a night owl. I'm up late, like even on work nights. I'm typically up till midnight every night. I think part of it also is just like, that's like quiet time for me. Like my wife's asleep, my son's asleep. That's like the only time I really get to kind of be alone with my thoughts. So it's like, I don't want to just go to bed and waste it. Like sometimes if I'm tired, I do, but I don't know. That's some of my favorite time to just kind of, if I'm just going on my phone or watching a football game or whatever.
That's my music time. That's when I'm like cataloging.
Yeah, music. Same with me. That's what I'm potentially making a playlist on Apple Music late at night, something like waiting up till midnight on a Thursday for when one of the new albums comes out to listen to that. So that's what I do.
Cool, man. Well, this has been so much fun. Like I said, I was looking forward to the talk, so I'm glad we got to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I really appreciate you asking me, and I'm really happy for you that, you've had this podcast going for a while now. How long has it been?
2 years. 2 years.
Oh, wow, man. Congrats.
Yeah,
Congrats,
man. Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
well,
It's been a cool journey.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, I certainly, hope it keeps growing for you, and, you continue to get guests on. I'll have to, now that I've done it, I can cheat and go back and listen to some of the ones, and I'll certainly keep an eye out now to see who you have on next. So, again, man, I can't thank you enough. Was a lot of fun.